The small town of Patterson, Ohio, was a peaceful, unassuming place nestled in the rural hills of the Appalachian region. With its dirt roads, modest homes, and a community that lived off the land, there was little to indicate that anything extraordinary would ever emerge from such a place. In the 1860s, when the Oakley family lived there, the world was changing, but remained a world where tradition and survival meant everything. The Oakley family, like most others in the area, lived off their land. They worked hard, endured the harsh winters, and fought to keep their heads above water. In this environment, the quiet birth of a baby girl in 1860 would seem like just another day in a small town. Her name was Annie, and little did the world know that she would grow up to become one of the most celebrated and legendary figures in American history. Annie's early life, however, was far from easy. Her father, Francis Oakley, was an accomplished marksman and hunter, providing for the family by hunting and trapping animals in the surrounding forests. Unfortunately, when Annie was only 6 years old, tragedy struck the Oakley family. Her father passed away, leaving her mother, Susan, to raise Annie and her siblings alone. In a world where men were often the breadwinners and protectors, the sudden loss of her father placed a heavy burden on her mother's shoulders. Susan Oakley, though heartbroken, did everything in her power to keep the family together. Life became a daily struggle, but it was during this difficult time that Annie's skills began to truly emerge. Without a father to guide her, she turned to the teachings that he had imparted to her, lessons in hunting and survival, and used these lessons to help her family. Annie's early life was defined by loss and hardship, but it was also the birthplace of her remarkable resilience. From an early age, Annie Oakley displayed an uncanny ability to shoot with precision. By the time she was just 7 years old, she had learned to handle a rifle with impressive skill, and by the age of 15, she had become an expert marksman capable of shooting game with incredible accuracy. Annie's talent didn't come from natural ability alone. She had an unmatched work ethic and an unshakable focus. Every day, after school, she would spend hours practicing her aim in the woods behind her house. Whether it was squirrels, rabbits, or birds, Annie learned to hit her target, often with nothing more than a simple rifle and her sharp eye. This was more than just a skill. It was a survival tool. The family relied on the meat Annie hunted to survive the harsh winters, and over time, her reputation grew. Locals began to take notice of the young girl with remarkable aim, and it wasn't long before her name spread beyond the borders of Patterson, Ohio. As Annie's reputation as a sharpshooter spread, so did her opportunity to prove herself. One fateful day, the manager of a traveling show, Frank Butler, heard of this talented young sharpshooter and saw an opportunity to make a name for himself by challenging her. Frank Butler was a seasoned marksman who had made a living performing in shows across the country. Confident in his abilities, he issued a challenge to the 15-year-old girl, a shooting contest to determine who was a better shot. At the time, Frank Butler believed that no woman could possibly outshoot him. He was wrong. The competition took place before a crowd of spectators, who eagerly watched the showdown between the seasoned professional and the young upstart. Frank, with his years of experience, was sure he would win. But when the moment came, Annie hit every target with effortless grace and precision. The crowd was stunned, and Frank Butler was left speechless. In the final moment of the contest, Annie split a playing card in half while it was still in the air, an extraordinary feat that cemented her status as a sharpshooter. Her victory was not just a triumph of skill. It was a statement to the world that women were just as capable as men. Frank Butler, despite being defeated, was so impressed with Annie's talent that he extended an invitation for her to join his traveling show. This would be the beginning of Annie's rise to fame. Frank, who was both a mentor and a future husband to Annie, saw in her not only the potential for financial success, but also the power to break barriers. For Annie, the invitation to join Frank's show was an opportunity to do something few women had done before: take control of her own destiny. The two began performing together. It wasn't long before Annie's sharpshooting skills became the highlight of their shows. The duo traveled across the United States, performing in cities and towns, thrilling audiences with their remarkable feats of marksmanship. Their performances were often set up as duels, with Frank, the seasoned professional, taking on Annie, the rising star. Annie's sharpshooting wasn't just impressive, it was awe-inspiring. She could shoot a target while spinning in the air, hit a moving target while riding horseback, and even shoot an apple off a person's head with impeccable accuracy. As the years passed, Annie Oakley's fame grew exponentially. Her performances captured the imagination of the public, and her extraordinary skill was admired by audiences around the world. Annie was more than just a sharpshooter. She became a symbol of empowerment and resilience. At a time when women were often expected to be delicate, docile, and dependent on men, Annie proved that women could be strong, independent, and capable of achieving extraordinary things. She didn't just perform in front of crowds. She inspired them. Her performances were a statement that women, too, could master skills traditionally reserved for men. Her charm, confidence, and poise on stage only enhanced her reputation, and soon she became a household name. In fact, her fame spread so far that it caught the attention of Buffalo Bill Cody, the legendary showman behind the Wild West show. In 1885, Annie Oakley was invited to join Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, a move that would elevate her to even greater heights of fame. The Wild West show was a spectacle that featured cowboys, Native American performers, sharpshooters, and other characters from the American frontier. It was a blend of entertainment and history, and it toured across the United States and Europe. Buffalo Bill Cody, who had recognized Annie's incredible talent, made her one of the star attractions of the show. Performing alongside other iconic figures like Sitting Bull, Annie quickly became one of the biggest draws of the Wild West show. Her performances dazzled audiences from London to New York, and she became known as Little Sure Shot, a nickname given to her by Sitting Bull himself. But her success was not just about entertainment. It was about breaking barriers for women. Through her involvement in the Wild West show, Annie became one of the most visible symbols of female empowerment in the late 19th century. Annie's relationship with Sitting Bull was one of mutual respect and admiration. Sitting Bull, the legendary Lakota Sioux leader, was so impressed by Annie's skill with a rifle that he personally gave her the name Little Sure Shot. Their bond was not just one of professional respect, but also a personal friendship. Sitting Bull admired Annie's strength and independence, qualities that were rare in women at the time. He often accompanied her during performances, and the two became close friends. Their partnership became one of the most iconic relationships in the history of the Wild West show, and it further solidified Annie's reputation as not just a talented sharpshooter, but also a courageous and groundbreaking woman. The performances that Annie and Sitting Bull participated in were more than just entertainment. They were a reflection of the changing roles of women and Native Americans in American society. Annie's rise to fame was not only about her sharpshooting ability, it was also about her dedication to empowering other women. Throughout her career, Annie Oakley advocated for women's rights and encouraged women to pursue activities and careers that had previously been off-limits to them. She firmly believed that women should not be confined to traditional gender roles and that they were just as capable as men in any field. She was a strong supporter of women's suffrage and worked tirelessly to promote the idea that women had the right to vote and to be active participants in society. She also became an advocate for women learning how to shoot, arguing that marksmanship was not just a skill for men, but a valuable tool for women, particularly for self-defense and confidence. Annie Oakley was a pioneer, using her fame to challenge societal norms and to push for change. Despite her fame and success, Annie remained grounded and deeply connected to her roots. She was not only a beloved entertainer, but also a philanthropist who used her wealth to support causes she cared about. She worked with the government to train soldiers in marksmanship during World War I, lending her expertise to help soldiers improve their skills. Annie believed that shooting was a valuable skill, and she dedicated much of her time to teaching others. Her contributions to the war effort were significant, and she was recognized as a national hero for her efforts. However, her personal life was not without challenges. In the early 1900s, she faced health issues that prevented her from performing at the same level of intensity as before. But even as her health declined, Annie continued to support her family and promote causes she believed in. Annie Oakley's health continued to deteriorate as she grew older, and by the 1920s, her performances became less frequent. Her declining health did not, however, diminish her status as a national icon. She remained active in advocating for causes that were important to her, and her contributions to both the women's suffrage movement and the development of military training were widely respected. Despite facing personal struggles, Annie remained an inspiration to millions. In 1926, at the age of 66, she passed away from complications related to a long-standing illness. The world mourned the loss of a true pioneer, a woman whose extraordinary life had touched the lives of countless people across the globe. Annie Oakley's legacy is one that continues to inspire people to this day. She defied the odds, shattered expectations, and proved that anyone, regardless of their gender or background, can achieve greatness. Her name has become synonymous with strength, resilience, and skill. Annie's story is not just a tale of a sharpshooter. It is a story of a woman who refused to be defined by the limitations society placed on her. She blazed a trail for future generations of women and men alike, proving that anything is possible with determination, hard work, and a belief in oneself. Even after her passing, Annie Oakley's influence endures. Her life has been celebrated in books, films, and documentaries, and her legacy is still honored by those who admire her courage and pioneering spirit. She broke down barriers, both for women and for those who dare to dream beyond conventional limits of their time. Annie Oakley didn't just shoot at targets, she shot for the stars, and hit them every time.